Hello, Earth Angel, and welcome to episode 17 of the Devotional Drip, where we are going to be exploring consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self, and specifically working through something that's been coming up for a lot of folks in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Coven, which is working with the fear of being seen for who you actually are and how magical you are and how radiant you are. So we'll look at meeting any fear and anxiety around that as a portal to your power so you can move into your week with the intention to deeply connect with and harness the power of your free will in relationship to the divine will of your higher self, and where you're being called to rise and shine and emerge and activate on your path of higher self embodied leadership, light work, and service to your own soul and planet Earth. Very casual. Coming in with some big witch energy today because we're also going to really open up a conversation around past lives. And I'm going to invite you to get in touch with your magic, your gifts, your intuition, your purpose, and how ancient it feels in your body in this lifetime. And specifically, the call of this lifetime as a lifetime to really activate and shine and be seen in all of your multidimensional magic. So if you're tuning in live, let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in on the replay, please share where you're tuning in from as well. It's so fun to connect with you on the live comment feed and in the replay. And thank you to those of you who have reached out and shared your aha moments and your breakthroughs that you're having through sitting with these transmissions and creating time every week to consciously connect with the consciousness of your higher self. So let's get into it. I'm very excited about today's topic. A little background for those of you joining us for the first time. The Devotional Drip is a free higher self embodiment and personal development coaching series for creatives, leaders, visionaries, and light workers. The intention of this series is to support you in igniting your higher self connection, embodying your higher self expression, and inspiring a spiritual self care practice that actually hits the spot, gets to the root charge, pours water on that which has felt painful for perhaps lifetimes across the altars of your personal and professional life, which is to say, your relationship with your own heart, your relationship with other folks on the path, and your relationship with your soul mission. We're talking all encompassing divine purpose. I think sometimes, when we have the conversation around divine purpose and soul mission, especially in an entrepreneurial space, there's sort of like this zeroing in on the business piece, but it's so important to talk about our divine purpose as all encompassing across the altars of our personal and professional lives, the relationships that span those altars. And some of the tender, we're going to look at thorns today, some of the prickly stuff that comes up for you across those altars, because there's always a relationship between our personal life and our professional life. So in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Temple, we're exploring the intersection of embodiment at both of those places, at both the professional and personal altar, and doing the work at the intersection. So then the nectar and the honey and the nutrients and the codes and the healing spans your whole life. No more separation, no more compartmentalizing. The call right now is to really meet your own being and meet your life from a holistic bird's eye, hawk eye view, where you also have your belly to the ground. So grounded in the 3D reality, walking that 4D, a 3D to 4D to 5D bridge, and then really activating that 5D consciousness and letting it trickle into the physicality, the everydayness, the brilliance of the banality of your living, waking, breathing life. So that's a little bit of background and a little bit of tone setting and vibration setting for today's transmission specifically. And this drip in total is here to support you meeting again the all encompassing call of your divine purpose embodied in your peace, power, and higher self stewardship, your ability to steward, your ability to guide your life. My name is Sarah. If we haven't met before, I am a higher self embodiment doula, so I support you in birthing your higher self expression. I'm also a multi passionate artist, entrepreneur, personal development coach, and creative consultant. In my work, I offer somatic, artful, playful, and sensual portals into self care, self healing, self leadership, spiritual awakening, higher self expression, and higher self embodiment. We go live every Monday for the weekly drip at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and a replay is always sent out to the newsletter Coven. So if you have not yet already, you can click the link in the description of this video to subscribe to the Blood, Bone, and Honey newsletter Coven. The newsletter Coven also receives replays of all devotional drip episodes with corresponding somatic journal and movement prompts, and a corresponding monthly practice playlist that I tend to update weekly because I just love updating it and I love music and that's just my flow. And these resources exist to support you in integrating, digesting, and applying whatever personally comes forward for you through this drip. As always, let your own wisdom lead. Take what resonates, leave the rest. Not everything is for everybody. So be in your sovereignty, be in your agency, be in your self-leadership and autonomy, even as you're receiving this drip, and really like feel into, suss out, organize like what is for you and what is not for you. It can be helpful during these drips to have a journal with you. And if you write down the things that resonate at the end of this drip, you'll have this like medicinal momentum to the time that you spent here. And perhaps that's something you put on your altar and revisit throughout the week to inspire your practice, inspire you in staying present and connected to your higher self. Last thing before we get in, if you're interested in applying to receive one-on-one coaching support for your next season of higher self-embodied transformation, healing, awakening, and expression, you'll also see that I have put my Calendly link in the description of this video where you can apply to work with me in a one-on-one coaching or private mentorship container. All right, witches, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self. And we're specifically going to look at any fear in relationship to being seen for who you are, for what your purpose is, for what you're here to do and be. And we're going to start out with our first mentor from today coming forward in the form of an oracle card. We pulled this card a couple of weeks ago on another drip. So we're revisiting this one again. And there's also another card that came through from our integrating the past and surrendering to, I forget the name of the episode. It was a couple of episodes back, and it's the title of it starts with integrating the past. So that could be a nice one, a nice drip to listen to in tandem to this one. So starting out with our first ally for the day to support us in consecrating our free will to the divine will of our higher selves and shining in all of our multidimensionality, the bigness of our gifts, the bigness of our purpose, the bigness of our expression without apology, we have my dear Mirabai. So I'm just going to get her on the altar first and foremost. So Mirabai is here to invite us into the deep understanding that we have a right to do whatever it is that we feel called to do from our guts and souls for our lives, regardless of what anyone else thinks about it. This is like a divine alignment to quieting all of the external voices, and then in your sovereignty, turning up the dial, turning up the volume, turning up the sound on your own heart as a practice of sovereignty to claim this is my energy, these are my thoughts, this is what I believe, and to really stand in the power of your I am presence. Where in that like very Aquarian way, you are claiming what you are here to embody as a unique key code and expression of your higher self embodiment. So, a little background. Mirabai was a Bhakti poet from India. If you don't know what it is, the Bhakti movement is a spiritual path that is focused on a cultivation of a personal love for the divine. So, specifically pointing to that personal love, that personal relationship with your higher self, with God, Goddess, Source, Universe, whatever language resonates for you. All names are always welcome in this space. All sovereign connections to the divine, to magic, to the universe, to your own unique spiritual practice are always welcome in this space. And Mirabai is here to point to oh God, the divinity and the importance of that relationship. And like any relationship, the relationship between you and your higher self, and you and whatever you relate to as divinity, is a special, unique relationship that needs to be cultivated, that needs to have energy and time and resources put into it in order for it to thrive and grow. So in this moment, I'm seeing like a watering can and like watering your relationship with your higher self, with source. And the way that when you spend your time doing that, when you spend your time, your energy, and the currency of your consciousness feeding your relationship between you and your higher self, between you and source, it's not that the other relationships become less important. You just recognize that this is the most important relationship. So before you try to go tend to any other relationships in your life, including your relationship with the voice of your inner critic, your own inner child, your soul mission, and any other being outside of you, before you go to meet those relationships, it's the Mirabai is the call to surrender land and devote and give presence and time and energy to your own unique, sovereign, direct connection with your higher self and source. You don't need anything to activate this connection other than your willingness, your breath, and your free will choice to do so. So, introducing sovereignty and free will here at the top of this conversation. You don't need a priest, you don't need a pastor, you don't need a mystic, you don't need a psychic, you don't need anyone other than your own heart, your own breath, and your willingness to tune in and connect back and remember what the texture of divine love feels like moving through your blood and bones. What does love feel like in your body? How do you sensorially connect to the vibration of love through your bones, through your blood, through your body, through your breath, through your every action? So this is what Mirabai is inviting us to explore. So Mirabai considered the god Krishna to be her true husband. So we could relate this to perhaps our first relationship, even before our relationship with our partners or anyone outside of us. There's this divine union with our higher self. There's this divine marriage that we go into with our higher selves. And so that is the first relationship that gets tended to. So then all of the other relationships get to receive from your direct connection to your higher self. Imagine how you would show up for your other relationships if you were plugged into the currency or plugged into the consciousness of fear and shame, and self-doubt and unworthiness, compared to if you went to meet your relationships plugged into your direct and sovereign connection to your higher self, source, and divine love. Can you imagine how that would perhaps create different timelines that you would then walk based on what your consciousness is plugged into and what you're giving the currency of your energy, attention, and intention to? Mirabai is like, Krishna is my husband, even though she was arranged to be married to a prince. She considered Krishna to be her true husband. And legends actually say that her family tried to kill her for defying social customs and expectations of a wife. So let's apply this to perhaps whatever expectations, whatever shoulding you're doing with yourself and your own life, and whatever external voices you're allowing in, trying to tell you what to do and how to be based on an old paradigm, based on an outdated expectation, perhaps even your own expectations for your life. How have the last 2 years cracked you open, shaped your mind, body, and heart to become something more, to move in a new direction, to integrate and express beyond perhaps what you had initially planned for your life? Your free will would have you do a million different things, especially the multi-passionate creatives, right? It's like there's so many ways that you could engage with this physical reality. To consecrate your free will to the divine will of your higher self is to do what your higher self is calling you to do. And usually, it's the path that's going to trigger some discomfort, and it's going to be a little thorny on the way, because that thorniness is also part of like revealing the beauty of the bud, right? Like the thorns are a part of the shaping, the thorns are a part of um protecting the bud, protecting the blossom and the bloom that you're going through on this journey. So we'll get to that Thorns card in a little bit, but plugging back into Mirabai essentially being like, fuck these customs, fuck these social norms. I don't want to marry this dude. He's trying to kill her. Her husband's family's trying to kill her. Her own father's trying to kill her. And she's like, listen, y'all, I get that you're not down with this, but my true husband is Krishna. I'm married to the divine. This shit is not my vibe. I'm not doing this. The sovereignty of her no and the sovereignty of her yes. She was clear about what she was in devotion to and where she was going and what she wanted and what was real for her, regardless of what the culture and her and the society and even her immediate family had to say about it. And this brings me to like the path of the mystic and really stepping into your higher self expression and really claiming that you are a living angel on earth, here to do some light work, here to integrate your shadow, here to cause a big splash. It's going to directly confront and trigger people in your immediate circle. And perhaps your family, especially if you are a divine disruptor of your lineage. So you're quite literally disrupting old ways of doing and being. And perhaps you even identify as like the black sheep character, right? Like the one who is here to do it differently. Or maybe you've denied that within yourself. Maybe you've always felt that sort of differentness or uniqueness internally, but you went along with the flow, and now you're breaking out of that. Wherever you are on your own personal nonlinear journey of healing, awakening, and coming into your higher self becoming and higher self knowing and higher self revelation about who you are and why you're here and what you fuck with and what you don't, no matter where you are on that path, Mirabai is a mentor and an ally to invite you to focus in on what you want, what is yours, what you believe, and where you're going. Be clear about where you're going, what you're in devotion to. The more clear you are around that, and it doesn't have to be specific, is what I'm hearing also. Like clarity doesn't necessarily mean specificity. So pull the specificity out, let go of any gripping and control, and let this energy that Mirabai is coming forward with, let this invitation to sense and feel into what is true for you to be the pathway to clarity. Don't command yourself to know right in this moment or tomorrow or by the next new moon or full moon. Mirabai is a surrender to process. Eventually, her husband, her father, and her father in law all died in war, and she refused to join her husband at his funeral. Again, defying cultural expectations. She said no over and over and over again to what was not true for her, even though people were threatening to kill her, even though she could have lost everything, right? Like, we know what happens to outspoken women, even still in fucking 2022, right? So she's this mentor, she's this guide, she's this ally coming forward to say, like, You are connected to a lineage of women and light workers and mystics and devotional beings who have come before you. Don't forget that. You're walking a path that has been paved, and you're continuing to pave it with your own sovereignty and your own legacy of love. And your legacy is connected to all of the other earth angels on planet Earth. All of our legacies, all of our divine purposes are interconnected. If you're here right now as a light worker, my divine purpose to show up and be in my Sagittarius North Node and rising and come on and give the good word is going to be a part of you getting activated to be in your divine purpose. And that's going to activate other people to be in their divine purpose. And like a loaves and fishes moment, everyone gets fed through our willingness to consecrate our free will to our divine will and be clear about what we're in devotion to. In the Blood, Bone, and Honey Temple, we are in devotion to divine love and nothing less. And it is a constant realignment and reorientation to that vibration, to that frequency. Higher self-embodiment is a living, waking, breathing practice, moment to moment, breath to breath, thought to thought. Where is the currency of your consciousness going? Where are you distributing your energy, your power, and your agency? What are you plugged into? Mirabai knew Krishna was her husband. What happens when your higher self becomes your best friend first and foremost? How does that transform your relationships with your best friends and your family and your life and your coven? Practice that this week. Send me a DM on Instagram or an email and let me know how that goes for you. How does devoting to your own relationship with your higher self and source first as an activation of consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self transform all of your other relationships? Mirabai also ended up becoming a central poet saint of the Bhakti movement during this very difficult war-torn period in Indian history. And her work was widely spread and widely known because it was based on freedom, liberation, love, faith, and devotion. She was a living embodiment of what was possible outside of the programming, outside of the expectations, outside of the cultural norms. Her embodiment was her legacy of love. How can you make your embodiment your legacy of love? And everything else that comes from you is an expression of your embodiment, an expression of your truth and your essence and your energy. When you work on that relationship with your higher self and you cultivate that inner sense of devotion and you really are up on your energetic hygiene and you're moving your body and you're drinking your water and you're clear about what you believe and you're not consecrating your free will to the fear-based, shame-based programming of this world. When you're not doing all of that, it's like doing your energetic push-ups at the gym every morning and your soul gets sculpted and strengthened. And your ability to, like Mirabai, meet outdated cultural expectations, paradigms, and programs that do not resonate with you, your ability to bust through and breathe fire and transmute those becomes even more accessible and even more vibrant and even more powerful because you're spending time cultivating the new muscles, cultivating the new sense of self, cultivating the new identities, cultivating the new belief systems, cultivating your relationship with your higher self and source every day, multiple times a day, dropping into prayer, dropping into breath, dropping into that tune in and that realignment. When you feel your mind going off into space, when you feel like that texture of disassociation or flight or freeze or fight, any sympathetic nervous system reactionary texture, any anxiety, any fear, any shame, any guilt, the moment you notice that, and this points to our episode about being the compassionate witness and devotional steward of your life, which you can tune into last week's episode for that. Every time you feel into the texture of shame and guilt and anxiety and fear, it's in that moment, it's in that breath that you choose a better feeling thought. You bring yourself out of the hole through your breath, through your willingness to move up the emotional scale, so that from this witness consciousness you can sense and see and get curious about. Remember, curiosity was our very first activation for activating the compassionate witness within. Again, that's last week's episode if you want to tune into that. You start with getting curious, asking the fear, asking the shame, asking the guilt, asking the anxiety. What's going on here? I know that there's wisdom at the end of this thread. I'm going to follow the rainbow to the honeypot. And I know that sometimes in order for the rainbow, the spectrum um, of of my choice of relation to these feelings, in order to reveal that light spectrum, sometimes there needs to be a storm first. We've been talking about this too on the drip, trusting the weather patterns, trusting the storm, because after the storm comes a rainbow. So then there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no fear, there's no texture of anxiety, there's no disempowering story, belief, block, whatever you want to call it, that wouldn't eventually bring you to the honeypot at the end of the rainbow. And it's a psychological discipline to practice that and live your life from that perspective, from that higher self perspective, from that higher self way of relating. Again, it's consecrating your free will ability to sense into and feel into and meet whatever is coming up within you, with the intention to consecrate that free will to what your divine self, what your higher self would have for you and your life. There is nothing that will be placed on your path that isn't a part of your soul's liberation journey. When you understand all of these things coming up as the mile markers, as the portals, as the initiations in the mystery school of life, when class is always in session, then you don't take it so personally when shit goes wrong. Because it will. Because it will. So, hi, love. I see you in the comments. Welcome, welcome. So when it comes to working with Mirabai, working with the fear of being seen, working with consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self, this ally, this archetype is an invitation to do what is right for your own life and to truly, truly, actually, at a next level, at a next level, at a next level of willingness, at a next level of presence, at a next level of depth, let fucking go of any codependent relating that would have you holding back your shine because of what someone else might think about it. You're here to disrupt old programs, old paradigms. Trust the storms, trust the fire. What if the storms, what if the fire, what if everything that gets burned up and cleared on your path is also part of your higher self, supporting you, guiding you, leading you, creating the way, showing the way to you, for you, on behalf of your highest good? What if that's what was happening? What does that open up? Again, when we're working from that compassionate witness, higher self perspective, you know you're in tune with the consciousness of your higher self, and that frequency, and that that aspect of you that is you, when what you're thinking about, what you're practicing, what you're moving through, even if it feels thorny, even if it feels prickly, even if you've got blood and dirt on you, when you're there, when you're consecrated there, and you've got your eye on the star of your higher self, then it's like, I don't know if y'all have watched Wheel of Time or Demon Slayer, but those are my two like visual activations right now that I'm watching. Like a Demon Slayer, like an Aes Sedai, I'm like on episode 3, I think it's Aes Sedai in the Wheel of Time. Like these Earth Angel Warrior light workers, you fucking are moving to the top of the mountain. You've got your eye on the star, and it truly does not matter what comes up on your path, because you understand it as an initiation and activation. The fire, the storms, the lightning, the blood, the dirt, all of it is part of it. I will say this again and again: the lotus grows from the mud. The butterfly grows from the slop of the chrysalis. Don't judge that part of the transformation. If you do, you're missing out on the lessons. You're missing out on the blessings. The lessons are the blessings. If your lessons are not resonating as blessings, sign up to do a one-on-one private mentorship with me, or take advantage of this last week to book your one-on-one higher self power hour session, and let's get you clear so that you can really move through this period like in your Earth Angel warrior activation. Like, it's time for the warriors. It's time for the warriors. You got all your tools on your belt. You're activated. You're connected to your breath. You're connected to your body. In Demon Slayer, I love when he's like, activate water breathing. It's like that level of understanding. Like, the path is going to feel like a path with mountains and hills and valleys and water and weather. And sometimes you're going to have what you need. Sometimes you're going to show up unprepared. Regardless of the state that you're in, how are you choosing to meet your current experience? How are you choosing to meet your own heart? Are you judging the emotions that are coming up, or are you meeting them like a compassionate witness and devotional steward? Again, check back to last week's episode of your life. That is what Mirabai did. So what programs and paradigms are you upholding within and without that are ready to shatter and alchemize? What glass ceilings are you ready to just punch through and break through and celebrate and rejoice as the glass shatters around you? People are always judging and projecting. If you are a light worker, if you are a mystic, if you are a leader, if you are a coach, if you are a business owner, if you are showing up in your leadership, your creativity, and your visionary capacity and your light working abilities in any way, people are gonna project onto you, and that's just part of it, boo. Like, for real, it is actually just part of it, and part of what they're going to be doing on, like, from the perspective of like Mystery School of Life classes always in session. Be mindful of those mirrors, and when those people are quite literally playing a role in the grand cosmic drama, where they may be externalizing a voice of your own inner critic, of your own ego construct that your higher self is inviting you to look in the face of and say no and move on. Warrior status. Nothing on the path would not be here to, if it wasn't here to initiate you into your higher self embodiment and expression, it wouldn't be on your path. Just try that on. Try it on in consciousness and see what it opens up. Maybe take a breath in this moment. Really sensing into the particularly tender, thorny, prickly stuff for you right now. And if there is nothing on your path, no thing that does not serve a purpose, that purpose being to activate you into more of your peace, power, prosperity, pleasure, play, prayer, faith, trust, devotion, soul's liberation. If there was nothing on your path that wasn't here to lead you to that honey pot at the end of the rainbow, how does that change the way that you meet it? Feel free to drop in the comments and let me know. What changes? What becomes more available? What feels more expansive? Where does that activate your awareness around potentiality? Where does that meet any consciousness of defeat, like the warrior who just got knocked down in battle, so that you can rise on your 2 feet and stand on your legs and say, I am here and this is what I'm doing. And if you don't get it, many blessings and love for your path, but this is what the fuck I'm doing. That's Mirabai. She also does it in love. Some of that segment, like I did put on the cheetah, like we're bringing in some big cat witch energy today. We're going to get to the past lives card in a second. There is that conviction with Mirabai. And then there's also the piece around, like, when you honor your own sovereign journey and you're not worried about what other people are doing because it's none of your business. There's also this energy of being like unbothered, where people can wild out, do what they want, say what they want, think what they want, project what they want, and that's not yours to handle. Just this morning, I had some dude on Instagram telling me, it doesn't even matter. I'm not even going to give that consciousness the energetic currency of repeating it in the space. But what I will say is, like, I had to just shrug my shoulders, send some love, block the energy, and move on. And if you want to be visible, if you want to be a leader, if you want to shine, if you want to be seen, it's going to be part of it. People will get prickly around you. You're going to trigger their shadows, even your own clients. even your own friends, even your own family. And that inner circle might change and it might shift. Your physical reality will always rearrange around you to reflect where you're at internally. And of course, we're acknowledging systems of oppression as they stand and how privilege plays a part in that as well. Of course. Please know that that is always a part of this conversation. Please know. And I will repeat it and reintroduce it and always put it on the altar because it is so important. Which is why also take what resonates, leave the rest. Take what feels like nutrients, leave what's not for you. So people are always going to judge and project. It's happening all the time. Just be in agreement with that now. How does that make you want to maybe even activate some more of your boundaries and protect your energetic hygiene and get in your power and get in your bag and get in your bad bitch, bad witch energy? I was just talking to a client yesterday who I was doing a reading for, and what was coming through was and I've actually been in a intentional investigation of this for quite some time now. But it's whatever we've called the bitch, whatever society has labeled and called the bitch, and whatever qualities that have tracked in our consciousness underneath that, we're reclaiming that. What's a bitch? Truly, what is that? Who created that term? Where did that come from? Look at the similarities between that and the definition of a witch in some people's consciousness, where they're still at, where they're still blocked, where they're still locked. We're reclaiming the bitch, we're reclaiming the witch, and we're getting on with our divine purpose. And we're truly stopping giving a fuck what other people think about it. That is part of your initiation into your visibility, dropping the gripping to what other people think. Let them be in their sovereignty. Let them be in the sovereignty of their projections. Consecrate your free will to the divine will of your higher self and decide not to give a fuck. I love this energy, Mirabai and higher self. Thank you. Okay. Let's close the portal on Mirabai for now by saying, don't spend your energy avoiding and shrinking. It takes energy to stay small. Think about trying to keep this bubbling up experiment with all of this effervescence and all of this stuff that wants to come out in the jar. There's all of this commotion that's going to be happening, and you're going to try to keep the lid shut. And when you let all that out, there might be an explosion. There might be shit that gets burnt up. There might be relationships that end. You may have a new house, new job, new boo, new self-concepts, a new identity, new wardrobe, newness that wants to flood in. And trust that chrysalis sloshiness and sloppiness. Trust that water, trust that fire, trust the burning, trust the transmuting. And know that if you've been taking a lot of your energy to repress your power, and then you open that up, just know that's what's happening. Just know that's what's happening. Be in agreement with the unleashing of your power and get some support to resource you through that. Get some support. We're not meant to do the journey of awakening, healing, and becoming alone. This path is not meant to be walked alone. We will get to this also, but the Fox card is specifically coming forward to say that today. This journey is not meant to be done alone. If you're looking for one-on-one support, click the link here or DM me to find out about the one-on-one higher self power hour readings I'm offering just for this week. Then it's over. So if you want that one-on-one power hour reading, send me a DM or an email. If you want to activate one-on-one support in private mentorship in a longer-term container, I'm currently offering 3 different tiers of support. Then the link is below for you to book your free clarity call, and then we'll connect and go from there. Okay. We're using our energy to expand, and we're using our energy to grow, and we're reallocating our energy so that we can be resourced in that direct connection to our higher selves for how we're meeting this path. Because I want to speak to the ancient pain for the witches in the coven who know they've been doing this work for lifetimes. If you know, like you know, like you know in your blood and bones, or if you're just sort of remembering that for the first time, maybe even in this drip, welcome to your awakening, witch. If you know that you've been doing this work, you've been embodying the archetype of the witch, the mystic, the light worker, the magical person who is living against the grain of the norm of society and the expectations that have been laid out. If you are a divine disruptor, if you are here to quite literally support the collective tower crumbling moment that we're having, and you've been training for lifetimes, and there's this somatic, energetic, spiritual knowing that you have in your body about that, I'm talking to you. Hello, nice to see you again. We've probably been together before. Um, this past lives card um, is showing up to invite you to feel into where perhaps some of the fear around consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self, which is to say, being more higher self expressed, being more bold in that relationship, in that connection, in that expression, some of the blocks slash portals that will come up for those of us who have done this work for lifetimes, or have magical folks in our lineage that have done this work for lifetimes, is quite literally transmuting and healing the soul level trauma around that, and then also the epigenetic trauma that we carry with us in our cells, in our tissues, in our brains, in our blood, in our bones, around how it's not been safe to be a magical person on planet Earth for many centuries. Just to put it frankly and clearly, you may have heard about this spoken to as the witch wound, which can be understood, met, and explored from many different perspectives. What I want to offer today is it's a shared wound, and then you also have your own unique expression of that wound. And I want to say, whatever wound has been handed to you to transmute, what if we think about it that way? Whatever wound has been handed to you by your higher self to transmute, because that's how powerful you are, is also part of your greatest higher self revelation and revealing. So meet your wounds as wisdom. One of my teachers speaks about this as the parasite becoming the pearl. So that once which fed on your energy, that once internally, this is like your own relationship between you and you, that which was once feeding on your energy and taking you out of your power within you, now becomes the wisdom, the pearl of wisdom that is part of your transformation. So perhaps taking a moment to feel into and just even take a bow of acknowledgement to your own heart of like, if this resonates for you, of like, which we've been doing this work for lifetimes. And here we are in this lifetime where persecution still exists. Just got that message from that dude on my IG this morning. It happens all the time in my life because of how visible and loud and in my boldness I am around what I'm doing. So whatever is presenting itself in relationship specifically to you showing up and shining in your magic, meet that with the utmost tenderness, devotion, put it on your altar, get curious about it, ask it questions, and understand that it is your personal coursework, and it is also a part of your greatest liberation. Pain and power are doing a dance in this lifetime. In this lifetime compared to past lives, there is more capacity, spaciousness, and safety, of course, depending where we land when it comes to different intersections of privilege and access. But in this lifetime, in general, there is more safety and spaciousness when it comes to activating our gifts, activating our magic, and really stepping into your mystic embodiment. The past lives card is here to remind you that you can do all of the training and certification in this lifetime that you want. I personally am a student. I love it. I'm a student and a teacher always. I love learning. I'm always in some kind of new certification or program or something because I love it, because I am devoted to it, because it feeds me. But there was a point where I had to make the switch in my consciousness from like, oh, am I just doing this for this external ivory tower recognition? I went the whole academic path, y'all. I have my master's from Duke. Like, I went to grad school right after college. I did the thing. I've been in training for many years. I'm in training all the time. And you can continue that love for learning and also purify your intention. Don't do your training for other people's acceptance, for other people to bow to you and finally tell you how worthy you are of what it is that you're here to do. It won't come. And if it does come, it still won't hit the spot. Because there's this space within you that only your own self-validation can reach, where only your own higher self-light can reach, where only your relationship with the divine can reach. Nothing else can touch it. Nothing else can touch it, not even your most intimate relationships. Nothing can touch that space. So surrender into more intimacy with the untouchable spaces within you and shine the light of your presence there. We have a life aligned saying, honoring my true nature and saying no to the rest feels expansive. Yes. Honoring my true nature and saying no to the rest. Honoring my true nature, Mirabai, divine purpose, free will to divine will, honoring my true nature and saying no to the rest, no as a spell, no as an act of sovereignty, is having this feeling of expansion come forward. How beautiful. I'll read the whole comment. Honoring my true nature and saying no to the rest feels expansive and gives me more space for my purpose and pleasure. Yes, yes, yes. I want to say that your conviction around your pleasure, prosperity, and play is part of activating it. It's that claiming. It's that like divine feminine consciousness that says, I am here to be supported in all ways, always. The earth is regenerative. There is always resource. There is always energy flowing from the heart of the source, flowing from the heart of the cosmos. And I am here to ride that wave. And, we learn how to surf that wave. And sometimes we stay up on the surfboard longer on some days, which, a whole different set of circumstances can contribute to that. Some days we're just doggy paddling and we're getting pushed under the waves and we just come up for a moment to breathe for a second and then we're shoved back under. But we know that the wave is there and we know that we can catch it. And even if we're being brought to the depths of the ocean, we also understand that as a part of the clearing and the washing that the ocean and the water is doing. I speak in metaphor, y'all. So it's just going to be that on the devotional drip all the time. So welcome. Thank you for sharing that, A Life Aligned. Super potent feedback. I'm so glad that that's having you feeling in touch with your expansiveness, your potentiality, and your prosperity and your pleasure. Fuck yes. Let me know how it goes this week. Send me a DM, send me an email. Okay, so I also want to say around this past life card, we also live many lives in this one lifetime. So what does your past self have to say about you? If you were to meditate on your teenage self, your early 20 self, your early 30 self, your 40, however old you are and whatever age comes forward, if you were to take a breath, tune in and ask for a past self to present themselves within you, what age do you see? Take a breath, tune in. What aspect of your past self wants to connect with you? You can also do this with your past life selves. You can quite literally command via your higher self sovereignty, via your direct connection to your higher self and source, which is also going to give you direct access to what some refer to as the living library of the Akashic Records, which has all of this info and intel about your past lives. Of course, like anything, like riding that wave, it's going to take time and skill to really develop the capacity to receive. But what I'm specifically getting for this episode and those of you who are tuning in is like this past lives card is coming up. So perhaps in this moment, on this day, throughout this week, whenever you catch this, whether you're catching this the day it goes live or 6 months from now, what I'm feeling intuitively called to say is if you're receiving the invitation of this drip, you already have all of these gifts available to you that only require you tapping in, tuning in, and like making the direct phone call to your higher self to start calling in, bringing into your body, embodying more of. And it's like every time, every day, multiple times a day, calling into that higher self connection to say, like, I'm ready for more now. I'm ready for more of my light. I'm ready for more of my gifts. So connect to your past life selves, ask them to reveal themselves, activate your capacity to channel. You know how to do it. It's so much simpler than it may have been programmed to seem. And maybe some of that programming around like magic and channeling and connecting to my higher self has to be difficult and I'm not skilled enough for this or whatever is also part of that witch wound that's clearing now. I want to invite you to claim more magic, claim more intuition, and claim more of your gifts than you ever have before, starting in this moment and starting in this breath. How does that sound? How does that sound to just activate that as a part of consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self? To just say, like, higher self, I'm ready to receive. Higher self, I'm ready to get in touch with my past lives and some of the wisdom that might be there for me to support me and help me in this lifetime. Higher self, please bring forward a version of my past self, and whatever age comes forward, trust it. I'm getting like 17 for myself right now, which is really powerful based on the work that I'm doing in my own healing, awakening, and becoming practice right now. So tuning into that past self and then asking that past self, I'm going to ask my 17-year-old self, like, how do you feel about where my life is right now, where our life is? How do you feel about what has occurred? What do you want to show me that will help me and encourage me and resource me and empower me and charge me up for my journey ahead? This is higher self embodiment. This is quantum embodiment. This is getting in touch with all versions of yourself across time and space and resourcing that connection as a part of also understanding how big you are. Where are you holding out on your self celebration? The Blood, Bone, and Honey Coven is full of people pleasers and high achievers. I'm just going to say it how it is because that's a shared pain point for mystic witches and light workers across time and space. So if you struggle with either of those things, use your quantum embodiment, use your capacity to connect to past selves and future selves and past lives and your higher self. It's this multi-dimensional embodiment, and allow yourself to get in touch with all of the information in the field. One of my teachers calls this the wisdom body, that is here to resource you with information to help you and guide you on your path. I just said to a client yesterday, don't do this marathon, don't do this journey, don't climb these mountains in consciousness without planning out your snack breaks and your water breaks. That's just a fast track to starvation and dehydration. Anything else around that? Don't hold out on your self-celebration. Don't hold out on the harvest of gifts and multidimensional support that is here for you now. Don't hold out on yourself. Track the self-denial. Track the self-abandonment. Do not hold out on yourself. 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 Give yourself heaven and earth. Through your connection with your higher self, give yourself heaven and earth. Next card, Thorns. As a part of giving yourself heaven and earth, this card points to accepting yourself, all aspects of self, all circumstances, all emotions, all expressions. This card specifically points to the harshness as the underside of beauty. I want to say this is pointing to shadow self in addition to higher self, and the interplay between both of these aspects and expressions of your consciousness as a part of your soul's liberation journey, becoming journey, higher self becoming, higher self awakening journey. Specifically, when it comes to your shadow self, the theme on the altar right now, what I'm noticing across the altar, I said this last week for the high priestesses, is higher self awakening specifically. High priestesses and magicians, everyone's going through this. Higher self awakening is happening. So any shame coding, I'm getting like any shame that is like a film coding your true authentic expression, that's what's getting burned up, washed away, and integrated now. Anything that feels prickly, that's getting burned up and washed away now. So whatever feels like a prick, whatever feels like a pinch, whatever feels like, I'm almost getting like, whatever parts of your own unique expression make you cringe, lean in. Let those thorns draw some blood as a metaphor for your humanity being a necessary part of your higher self embodiment. Higher self embodiment is human self, divine self, integrated. The thorns are a part of it. The parts of you that make you cringe, the things that feel tender, the parts of yourself that you don't quite want to accept yet, the things that make you wince and go like this, and you kind of are like, like it's any of that energy. See how collapsed I am? Send breath, light, consciousness, love. Wrap your big old angel wings around the parts of yourself that are ashamed about who it is that you actually are, and understand that shame is a program. So when you wrap those angel wings around, you're starting to rewire and recode the program. If your free will would allow you to indulge in shame-based programming and let that coat your identity like a film, then your connection to your higher self is going to allow you to consecrate your free will to that divine will, which will always have you open where you've historically collapsed around yourself. That's the work. What I also want to say is, on that like inner witch, inner bitch reclamation activation we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, reclaiming anything that has been labeled the bitch as an expression of your own qualities, anything that you've referred to as bitchy, or you've been called a bitch, or that part of you has been called a bitch, or you've been programmed to relate to that as bitchiness, all of that is getting washed and reclaimed on behalf of your own inner divine feminine expression. And anytime in any lifetime, whether it be this lifetime or past lifetimes, the archetype of the witch has been projected onto you. Reclaim that. You don't have to take on that as an archetype if that doesn't work for you, but understand that the witch has both been used to liberate and oppress. It has been claimed as an identity, as an aspect of liberation, and it has also been used as a weapon to oppress magical people throughout centuries. So we're reclaiming our thorns. We're reclaiming the bitch. We're reclaiming the witch. We're reclaiming our right to say no, fuck you, take a step back. This is my journey. This is my life. And we're understanding our thorns as a part of our whole embodiment. Sometimes you got to slay some demons. And that's just what it is. So accept the thorns as a part of your beauty, as a part of your multidimensional expression. Integrate anything that you're pricking yourself with that's making you collapse on yourself, and activate that energetic hygiene and protection. Where are you giving away your energy? Where are you codependently allowing what someone else thinks about what it is that you do and believe and are here to be Shrink your own light. Where are you allowing that to happen? Reclaim your agency. Reclaim your right to say no, to draw a sacred circle around yourself and say no. Back up. That doesn't work for me. I don't communicate this way. I'm no longer available to be in this conversation. Boundaries are a spell for your sovereignty. So that's just a little bit on the Thorns card. You are the bud, you are the thorns, reclaiming all parts as a part of your higher self expression. The shadow self comes along for the ride, and like ride dirty with your shadow self. Ride dirty with your higher self. Invite them all into the car, and do not deny yourself any part of your expression. Again, tracking the self-denial across the altars of your personal and professional life. Where are you shrinking your light and playing small to make someone else outside of you more comfortable? Meanwhile, you're in this internal, like that experiment and all that energy in the jar, like you're trying to keep all this energy down, and you're using energy to keep it down and keep it in, when actually if you opened it up, you'd be able to open up and use your energy and reallocate it differently. What is sucking energy from your life right now? And if you want to activate even more sovereignty around it, what are you allowing to suck your energy? What are you allowing to suck your energy? Yes, there are vampiric energies on planet Earth. Some of them are living within human beings and feeding off their own stuff. We all have that going on too. If you're a human on planet Earth, you've also got that going on. There are ways that your energy is feeding in certain ways. Like, it's not about like a right or wrong or healed or not healed. It's just being aware of the energetic game that we're all playing. And like, what does sovereignty look like, sound like, feel like, activate within you and activate within you? What does your sovereign higher self expression, and really claiming that and owning that at a next depth, where and how does that change your relationships across the altars of your personal and professional life? Feel free to drop in the comments and share, like, if I claimed my sovereignty and my higher self expression at a next depth of willingness and devotion, here's what I sense would open up for me. Get in touch with the result. Don't just do it because I'm inviting you to do it. Do it because you're in touch with that honeypot at the end. Again, dropping specifics and understanding that for everyone, the honeypot is a more higher self-expressed self, a version of you that feels even more fulfilled, even more prosperous, that's even more in touch with their pleasure, their prosperity, their play, their purpose, and what's possible. Honor the thorns as a part of the whole plant of you. You are a plant in the garden of source. You are being watered. You've got thorns. You've got roots. What's the state of the plant? Where does the water need to go? And also trusting the divine process in addition to the divine timing of the way that, as a plant in the garden of source, you're being cultivated, you're being grown, you're being nurtured. The sunshine and the rain are equally necessary for the growth of the plant. So your higher self is going to bring some rainstorms, because that's going to bring the rainbow, and then the sunshine's going to come and you're going to expand out, and then it's going to rain again, and you might have a moment like this because you're drinking in all the water. So trusting your living embodiment as an expression, and as this like divine sculpture is what I'm getting. And this has been coming up too for folks. Like, if your heart feels like it's breaking, I'm going to invite you to get in touch with where it's actually being shaped, expanded, open, and stretched so that you can embody more of your light and embody more of your truth. And what if your higher self and God, Goddess, Source, the universe, whatever terms resonate for you, what if that divine expression was quite literally molding you and shaping you and helping your humanity to open, to embody more of your higher self light? What if that was what was going on here? What if that was the ritual? What if that's the ritual that spans every breath that you take on planet Earth? And what if everyone has a shared divine purpose to embody and become more love? Mirabai is the saint of true freedom. Love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. Get into a little higher self, divine union, divine marriage situation. Take a breath, tune into your body, your heart, your mind, invite them to work as one, and invite your higher self in to anoint any part of you that is thirsty for love. Start there. Start just watering yourself in those moments, and then notice the way that you will be more in touch with the way that you're being watered always, and the blessings are always flowing in. So to consecrate your free will to your divine will is to be in more of an active, participatory, like, is that the right word? Spirit, like a more of like an active participation. There we go. In your own life, and specifically more active participation in this sovereign divine connection between you and your higher self and source that is always available to you. Water it, cultivate it, give it time to grow. Divine process, divine timing. Mirabai was not concerned. She just stayed devoted to who she thought her true husband was, which was Krishna. She just stayed devoted. Even though everyone around her was wild and out, she didn't give a fuck. She was like, I'm here to be in devotion to divine love. So all y'all are living from an old paradigm. I'm here to live in a new paradigm. I know that's going to trigger you. I know that's going to be confronting to you. I'm still going to fulfill my divine purpose and be this like incredible bhakti poet. And my work is going to be known widely because that's just what it is. So if you're listening to this drip, chances are you're also here to embody that same archetype. You're here on a big mission. You're here to do big things. If you're here on a big mission and you're here to do big things, resource the support of your higher self and your connection to source. Do not do this human journey and fulfill the bigness of your divine purpose without nurturing that connection, resourcing that connection. It is so much easier when you do. In some ways, the activations will also be deeper, and you might get dragged deeper in the ocean because that's part of the baptismal anointing process of your consciousness. Like I'm getting like, like the washboard, and you got to dip in the water and you got to wring it out, and you got to dip in the water and wring it out. That's also like the heart being prepared. This is your consciousness being prepared. What would you need to accept and believe about the nature of reality in order to embody more of your higher self? This is the initiation that we're always going through, and we will be brought to the underworld of our own consciousness. We will be brought to the underside of the beauty, which is the thorns, which is the part of the labyrinth where everything is feeling scary. But then we remember that we're demon slayers and we're earth angels, and we're here to retrieve and integrate, like the goddess Inanna, our twin sister self, and bring them back up to the light of the sun, the light of our higher self, and bring them on our journey because we need them. We need those parts of ourselves. We cannot do this without full multi-dimensional acceptance of all of us. And quite literally, that is what the Thorns card is here to invite us into. Accepting yourself, all versions, all expressions, all emotions. Everything that has ever happened to you gets anointed by the light of your higher self consciousness. No part left behind, no story left behind, no aspect or expression of your truth left behind. Sometimes the integration and past life or past self healing will happen with the 3-year-old or the 5-year-old self. Sometimes it is the 17-year-old. Sometimes it is the 22-year-old. Sometimes it is this version right here, right now, who just had something happen yesterday that triggered their complex trauma. So we're scooping them up and we're bringing them along for the ride. My yoga teacher, Nina B. of Centering Life, who's also a master yoga therapist and just deep wisdom woman, will invite us to think about intrusive thoughts or these like fear-based beliefs or shame-based programming or essentially any story, belief, or self-concept that is a result of our trauma. She invites us to think about them as these little sheepies or lammies that are running out to the road, and we just got to scoop them back in and bring them back to center. It's all these stories, all these members of the inner committee, all of these different self-concepts and identities that form to keep you safe that are now getting brought back into the heart. Everyone comes home. All parts come home. All expressions come home. everything and everyone within you, getting a little multidimensional with it, all these members of your internal committee get invited to the altar of your higher self to be anointed with love. And you, as your higher self, are blessing these aspects of your consciousness, and you're loving them into their liberation, and you're loving them into their healing, and you're loving them into your expression. Okay. Last two cards, we have the Star and the Fox. Star card points to being the center of a system. It points to your brilliance, glory, and it also points to recognition and acknowledgement. So Mirabai, this magical, mystical, multidimensional Bhakti poet, her work becomes well known and widespread as a result of her devotion to stay clear in her connection to her higher self, Source, and Krishna in her specific divine relating, as a part of fulfilling her divine purpose. If she lost focus, if she gave a fuck about her family and his family and what he thought and whatever, she would have been distracted. This is like a no distraction zone. This star card is like focus on the light. Your mission, and you're here. Your mission is big. You're here to do something big. So understand yourself as this brilliant star, as a part of a star system. We could even go into star seed consciousness here, and who is your star family. And when you meditate, when you breathe, when you go into that deep spiritual connection, for you, what does your star family and how does your star family start to reveal themselves? You are a star in a human body. You're connected to a network of light workers and other stars. You are connected to a network of earth angels. You are a star amongst stars. Stars aren't judging each other, being like, well, that one needs to shine a little bit less bright, or like, I need to shine less bright because I don't want to like insult or make that star over there mad. No, that's the codependent relating and programming that we are throwing out the window. And Lilith said, wear me again for this drip. Like Lilith, we are claiming heaven and earth for ourselves. We are saying no to the outdated white supremacist, patriarchal religious programming that says that we need to shrink in order to be loved, in order to be worthy. We are not shrinking anymore. We are not self-censoring. We are stepping into our devotion like Mirabai, and we are fiercely committing to the belief, and we are fiercely practicing the belief that we are stars in human bodies, and so are other people, and we are all here to activate as a network of consciousness and divine love as the old paradigm crumbles and the new one rises. Anyone else want to join in for that? we got a woo, let's go. We got a speak baby. We've got Bhakti poet, Magdalene mystics, devotion to Krishna, Christ. Yes. So overall, we could explore this as a devotion to Christ consciousness, which is also to say Buddha consciousness, which is to say the consciousness of love that liberates any illusion that we are separate from the source that we come from. We are clearing that programming, we are clearing that paradigm, and we are claiming our direct and sovereign connection to our higher self and to source. And any voice within us that says we need someone else's permission, or it needs to be complicated, or we can't do it, or we're not powerful enough, or I'm not worthy enough, all of that is going to get burned up and transmuted through your devotion to love, through your willingness to show up and continue to cultivate, even if it feels like when you sit down to connect with your higher self, you can't feel it, you can't see it, you can't sense it. It feels like there's stuff you have to move through. Trust that as a part of the thorns in the labyrinth that are also here to shape you, that are here to draw some blood, that are here to remind you of your humanity and your divinity simultaneously. So there's recognition that wants to come in for you. Anyone who's watching this right now, there is recognition and visibility at a next level as a result of your devotion to be and embody love that wants to come in for you. Get out of your own way. Any self-expression that is standing in the front, any shadow self that is looking at you and saying you're not ready yet, I'm going to invite you to look in the face of that shadow self and that inner dialogue and challenge it. Challenge it. When's the last time you challenged your own shadow as a practice of integrating it? Look in the faces of your bullies internally and externally and tell them no. There will be thorns and there will be haters. But a star is a star, and a star doesn't care what you project onto it. It's just going to shine right through it anyways. Being able to meet and move through the projections is also part of your initiation into embodying your higher self. Being able to look in the face of the projections and say no and not take it on as yours is a part of the activation. That was a little clearing from my own throat chakra. The body doesn't lie. So let yourself shine and don't let your own ego or anyone else's ego get in your way. The ego is here to be in service to the heart. We don't need to get rid of the ego. We just need to remind the ego that it's here to be in service to the heart and higher self, not the other way around. Not the other way around. Reorient, reprogram that relationship. This is something we do deep work around in private mentorship. So again, link below in the description if you want to apply to work with me in a one-on-one container. Okay, Fox, last card, star beings, ancient witches and mystics. This is a fun one. Foxes, fox friends. I just saw a fox yesterday behind our neighbor's house. We have a family of foxes that's lived there for many years. And it's interesting because that fox actually came forward when my husband and I were looking at, like, I've been doing some like tech witchery realignment in the background. I've been kind of like moving my photo archive around and preparing for photo shoots, preparing for boudoir and branding shoots this summer. So I'm like getting my back end set up for that. And I was going to get a new computer. And then I was like, you know what? I think I might be able to just use this computer we have, like update the software, do some things. And so then I can like reallocate those resources essentially to something else. So when my husband and I were in conversation around this fox, like quite literally revealed itself. And because I know that the fox represents this wise teacher, and this strength in I'm getting like strength in numbers, and also the fox represents like the prosperity in business and skillfulness in business specifically that's ready to activate. So in a moment of having this conversation with my partner, the fox symbolizing like a strong partnership and a strong relationship with your mate. So if anyone here is in a divine counterpart kind of situation, whether it be romantic or platonic, if you've got like a life partner, partnership, business partnership, romantic partnership, platonic partnership going on, the fox is showing up to point you to the power in that connection and resourcing that connection as a part of creating more abundance in your reality. And also like the smartness, the thriftiness, the skillfulness, the business mindset, and the wise teacher that wants to activate within you. So while this fox showed up, we ended up being able to like transfer some stuff from my old computer to this other computer that we have that isn't being utilized, but it has more space than my current computer, whatever. You don't need to know the details. The point is that in that moment, we out together through our union, we put our minds together, we put our hearts together, and we came up with a solution, and we reallocated our resources in a skillful way. So this also makes me want to point to any sort of like skillfulness around business, skillfulness around money, skillfulness around claiming your wisdom and your ability to meet anything that feels logistically tender right now. Meet that in your higher self presence. Meet that in your higher self power. Ask your higher self, what do I do right now? The 3D version of this is feeling real tender, and I'm not sure what the solution is. I feel kind of blocked. To resource the fox, to resource your higher self in that moment, to resource this archetype of the wise teacher and the strong partner or mate who is there to help you solve, resolve, and dissolve any blocks. Let them guide you. Task your higher self with what you need. There's part of this agreement, this sovereign connection between you and your higher self when you come to planet Earth, is that your higher self is here to support you, resource you, and guide you in all ways, always. So task that aspect of your consciousness, ask for the signs and symbols, ask for the clarity. Because I track signs and symbols, like the higher self embodiment doula that I am, I feel like sometimes I'm just like real Carmen Sandiego with it, to be honest. Like I am just tracking the signs, I am tracking the symbols. I love living life that way. When I saw the fox, that was my cue of like, oh, okay, so we're about to get skillful. We're about to like activate our divine partnership. We're about to like get into this. And then we did. And so there's the energy of the fox I want to point to, but also just like this way of living and relating as an option. Whether you have like a mate and a partner that you're co-creating with, or right now it's just you and your own heart and you're activating your own divine feminine, and inner divine masculine, creating that union and making shit happen through your relationship with your own heart, and then through this relationship with your higher self. So if you've got the partnership, it's like you're in the partnership and then you're also in this partnership. This partnership is informing this partnership. If you don't have this one yet, put your energy and currency into this one. And then watch the way that this one comes in as a response to the vibration and the pathway and the relationship that you're creating between yourself and your higher self. This card is wanting to also point to connecting you with community. And if there is a reorientation and there's new community and new coven that wants to come in, I'm actually getting like for everyone, there is going to be new community and coven coming in. So trust the clearing that's happening. Trust any relationships or partnerships that are dissolving and breaking right now as a representation of what's falling away, and trust it as a part of creating space for what wants to come forward. This card is both pointing to connection with community and also connection to yourself. Foxes don't do well when they slip away. Wherever there is any self-abandonment in relationship to your own self, self-denial in relationship to you allowing yourself to drink from your own internal well, any self-denial in relationship to you landing at the altar of your own heart and really tuning in and receiving the intuitive guidance and wisdom and downloads that are always there for you, the creative solutions that are always possible through this free will to divine will connection with your higher self. Wherever there is any denial of that relationship, the fox is like, recommit to love, recommit to your devotion, recommit to this marriage between you and your higher self. Even if you've been doing this work for a long time, what would a recommitment ceremony between you and your higher self look like? We're going to be exploring this very soon in a new group offering that's going to be dripped out over the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. The last thing I want to say about the fox is be clear about who and what you're in service to and who and what you're giving energy to. What are you practicing in consciousness? Are you pricking yourself on your own thorns? Come back up to the petals. Come back up to the nectar. If you've been spending too much time in the thorns, come back up into the sunshine. Be mindful of how much time you're spending in the dark. A lot of times light workers also have this capacity to go deep and get dark. Makes sense, right? That the brightness of our light would match our capacity to devolve into the darkness. There's this symbiotic relationship that's ever expanding. The more of your own light you allow yourself to taste and get in touch with, the more of your own darkness will also reveal itself as a part of your full spectrum multidimensional embodiment. So if you're spending too much time in the dark, too much time in the cave, come back up, come to receive the light of your higher self. And strike a balance, strike this internal balance, this inner divine feminine, inner divine masculine balance, this inner light, inner dark balance, this balance between execution and also containment. Where is your balance between your output and your input? If you're outputting as a light worker more than you're receiving, as my mentor Des says, if there's too much output, there's too much clearing, there's too much giving, that creates a dull witch. So we have to allow ourselves to be anointed daily, multiple times a day. If you're however much light work you're doing on the planet, your shadow work has to be in balance with that. And also the way that you nurture and take care of yourself has to match that as well. If any of the altars get out of balance, that's when you're being invited to reorient and reallocate your energy. The fox archetype points to being skillful in business, like I said, and they make great teachers. Foxes are also quick to learn and adapt. So harness your ability to think quick, move quick. Harness your genius. Harness your genius. And really notice, where are you sleeping on yourself, your power, your capability, and your ability? What disempowering stories are you ready to shed? Foxes make ideal life partners, and they commit for the long term, the long journey. So be in it for the long journey, and know that the fox is here to support you in staying true to yourself and your immediate inner circle. So share what's going on. Let the coven come in and support you. Reconnect to the people that light you up. My husband's calling me literally right now. Reconnect to your star family. Reconnect to the people that feed you and fuel you on your journey. When in balance, this fox is magical, an ingenious teacher. They are fiercely devoted to their own heart and those who they are in relationship with. And to bring into balance, it's pointing to partnership and connection. So partnership and connection with your higher self, knowing that that relationship feeds all of your other relationships. All right, just one more round for the coven. Thank you, Mirabai. Thank you to our past lives and past selves. Thank you to the Thorns. Thank you to our star self, our star family, and our star seed consciousness. And then thank you to the fox. And thank you to you, dear soul. Thank you for joining me for episode 17 of the Devotional Drip. Please like this video if you found it helpful, and feel free to share any aha moments or breakthroughs in the comments. You can also spread the love and share it with a friend in the energy of the fox and partnership and connection and community and coven. Share this with someone who would benefit from this, and then get into some conversation about how you're going to start consecrating your free will to the divine will of your higher self. Knowing that your free will would have you do many things, but your higher self has a plan for your life. And there is a pathway that is created through your willingness to walk it in steadfast devotion. Again, check out last week's episode of embodying the devotional steward and embodying the compassionate witness within, without, above, and below, for an additional infusion around getting clear about what your relationship with your voice of your own higher self looks like, and how to speak to those members of the inner committee who may be wilding out, in order to support your integration, in order to support your embodiment, in order to support your higher self expression. And I will see you next week for episode 18. And please know that you can always take any breakthroughs to Instagram. I'm at Blood, Bone, and Honey on Instagram. If you'd like to share a story, share a post, tag me. It's always such a joy to see these aha moments, these breakthroughs in consciousness that y'all are moving through. And don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter Coven to receive your journal prompts, movement prompts, and practice playlist for April. I love you. Many blessings for your journey, and I will see you next week or on Instagram in the meantime. Mwah. Bye, y'all.